Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the vlog. Hope everyone is having an absolutely amazing New Year's weekend. It is finally 2021. 2020 is now behind us. It was such a dramatic year. A lot of things happened, but I can say, and I'm so humbled and blessed to say, that on YouTube, this was the best year that I've had. I suppose in hindsight that doesn't mean much since it's technically my first year, but I was so fortunate enough and grateful to have this channel get monetized, and I look forward to sharing those statistics with you in the coming weeks and months as the channel grows. As the title says though, today I want to do another mod to the Corvette. This is one that I've been kind of waiting on since I took delivery. A lot of what I've done so far is heavily preventative and protective maintenance. Ranging from the expel to the ceramic coating, it's all meant to preserve the beauty that is the C8 Corvette. And the title of this video is not meant to be clickbait. I genuinely mean every word of it when I say that this $80 to $100 modification is absolutely a must-do to any C8 Corvette. Whether you have a 2020, a 2021, if it's a coupe or a convertible, this $80 is probably one of the best investments, dollar for dollar, that you can make on your C8 Corvette. And I understand a lot of videos have been made about this modification, but I feel like after watching a lot of them, I still have something that I think I can contribute to that discussion for somebody that may be looking to get a C8 Corvette or has a C8 Corvette that's looking into this modification. So what is this modification, you ask? Well, that is basically the radiator guards. And before you guys run away, I promise there's something that you might take away from this video. More specifically, what I am talking about is the guards that go behind, or in some cases in front of this open area, to protect the radiator for taking abuse from rock chips. There's a lot of different versions of the radiator grill guards that you can get, and we'll kind of talk about some of those and kind of how I ended up with the one that I ended up with. But by no means am I associated with the one that I bought or know who they are. I bought the one that I think from a design perspective fit what I was looking for. And I look forward in the comment section, everyone kind of either picking apart my thought behind why I went with these radiator guards over some of the other ones, as well as providing either validation on my reasoning and kind of just where my head was at when I ordered these specific guards. But first off, now that we're starting to see some of the C8 Corvettes get miles on them, when we're talking about, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to 10,000 miles, we're seeing some of the design kind of nuances that may need aftermarket adjustment. This car naturally is very low to the ground. It's very wide profiled. And what I mean by that is it takes a lot of rock damage. You might not be able to see it, but you can see little rock chips that have already occurred. I have a whole video breaking down the price of how much I paid to expel the car, as well as ceramic coat the car, so definitely check that out. All these rock chips so far are just on the surface level of the expel. They definitely would have damaged the paint if I hadn't gotten the vehicle expelled. As you guys can see, I took a rock chip literally on the very first day that I took delivery right there. It's a very small one, but unfortunately the second time I took the vehicle out on the highway, this happened. And as you guys can see, I took a little rock chip right there that ended up cracking all the way down the windshield and running down to here. That crack is kind of still extending. And as I've said, guys, I bought this car to drive it, to own it. This is the channel's vehicle, so I plan on doing a lot of things with the car. And what that means is that I'm going to drive it and it's going to take regular day-to-day usage abuse. I was a little bummed out about that rock chip, but it is what it is. We're going to find out what the process of replacing a windshield on a C8 is. And as you guys may be able to imagine, it's the exact same thing as trying to order a C8. The windshield is on back order. A lot of the local glass repair places haven't even seen a C8, let alone do a C8 windshield. And there's a little bit technology behind it. You have the PDR mounted behind the windshield. You have the rear view camera. So I ended up going up to my dealership to find out that the windshield is about 3 months on back order. And so in the coming months, I'll share what the cost to replace that windshield, as well as share some of that process as it unfolds in the coming months. But you guys get an idea that this car is very prone to rock chips flying up and hitting it, so you want to try to do what you can to protect it. So they make a couple different options for their grill guards. The first one that I looked at was about $300, and it was actually mounted on the outside. So what that gave you is it gave you a piece that mounted here and then a separate piece that mounted here. And my problem with that design is basically it made the front button that's hidden up under here pretty much useless because it blocks it. And so that wasn't an option that I was kind of willing to go with. A couple of different options you can get is you have the option with aluminum guards and then ABS plastic. My main problem with the ABS plastic ones is that there's two ways they mount. They either mount through zip ties or they mount through a double-sided 3M tape. And what that means is that basically over time, when it goes through a bunch of heat and cold cycles, especially where I live, I have the opportunity or the chance for that glue to basically come undone over time. And I personally didn't want to take that risk, so I'm going with the zip tie option. It offers the same level of protection, but what it does give you is about a close to $200 savings on the price of the actual guards themselves. And I don't have to worry about driving down the highway and the glue basically coming undone and then the radiator grill guard flying into and then hitting the radiator. Additionally, the ABS plastic also is prone to cracking over time. The plastic can potentially get brittle. ABS is a very well manufactured standard of plastic material, so it's probably not going to do that for a long period of time, but I do potentially run the risk of that happening. As well as if a rock hits it, it's not going to bend, it's not going to flex like aluminum might. What's going to happen is it's going to end up cracking if the impact of the rock is hard enough. And so that's why I went and tried to see if somebody made aluminum versions of these radiator guards, which is what I ended up with. The ones that I ended up going with are the ones from C8grills.com. I will link them in the description below. Again, I'm not affiliated with them. I don't really know them or anything, but it's just the one that from a design perspective I think worked best for what I was looking for. And also from an engineering perspective, it kind of addressed some of the concerns that I had when I went and got one of these grill guards. They're the only ones that have this kind of soft padded material that basically wraps around the edges, and I think that's huge for a couple of different reasons I'll get into. But the idea is that this sticks behind the radiator and you basically zip tie it. And it retains this little notch out for the factory frunk button that's hidden under that driver's side front bumper. So the idea here is that you're going to undo the guard that's under the bumper and basically slide this up. The benefit of the edges being kind of padded is that if you accidentally hit the radiator with this, the edges aren't going to catch the fins and damage the radiators that we're installing this to ultimately protect. Obviously, you still want to be careful when you slide this up not to hit the radiators, but it gives you a little bit of additional protection. And basically what you get is it's going to fit behind this opening and zip tie in to ultimately protect that radiator for a lot of miles to come. Cool and interesting fact also is, if you didn't know why this fin was put in here and the whole thing is not open, is that the DOT requires a little size limitation on the opening that you can have in case a pedestrian hits it, they don't get trapped, or they can hit it and then roll off versus get trapped and stuck in one of the openings. So that's why this fin was put in by General Motors. But yeah, it should be a relatively easy install. I'm going to go ahead and do one side first, kind of understand how it works, and then show you guys on the other side. And as many of you know, I don't actually have any friends that can help me with this, so I'm going to be doing it myself. So this isn't like a formal install video, but I do want to share this specific modification, as well as, most importantly, I want to get criticism from everyone whether they think my thought process was going aluminum over ABS plastic, as well as zip tie over glue, what their thoughts behind me going this way is. So here it is, guys. I installed it on the passenger side. Unfortunately, I couldn't record this process. It is relatively straightforward. You basically just take out the bolts that hold the Z51 spoiler in across, as well as the ones that run kind of down along. If you have a ramp, it becomes a lot easier to do this with a ramp. I kind of cheated a little bit. The instructions, again, follow the instructions that come with the kit more than what I did here, but basically I did the front row and then just pulled it down. But if you have big hands, and I mean if you have like Nathan Trainer sized hands, then do not try to squeeze your hands up and in there, because the lip on the metal flashing is sharp and you could risk cutting your hand. So if you have big hands, you're elderly, then definitely drop that whole left side of the lower fascia, and that's going to give you a little bit more clearance. It does take a little bit of that brushed look away, but I think it still looks really nice, and you know that now that radiator is protected. One of the other things that I noticed when I did the passenger side is that basically an added benefit of this kind of like leather back padding surround on the edges, it's not leather, but it's like a hard kind of soft touch plastic. Basically what that does is, no matter how hard you clamp down those zip ties, what ends up happening is there's still going to be like a minimal, maybe millimeter to 2 millimeter like slip. And what this does is it kind of creates a little bit of a gap between the mesh material and your factory carbon flash fins. And basically there's no actual contact there that's causing any rubbing, as well as the edges aren't going to end up scratching any of the inside paint of the bumper. And so as you guys can see underneath, you basically want to drop this plastic panel down. There's 11 bolts you want to take out in total. All the ones that hook up the Z51 panel from this section split to the end of the wheel well. Additionally, there is a couple bolts back there that you can see that you want to take out right along here. And then lastly, along the inside of the wheel well liner, you want to take this bolt out, which will give you enough room to flex this lower panel down. And cutting the wheel just gives you a little bit more help trying to do that. And there you have it, guys. I installed the driver's side. Again, I apologize I wasn't able to really record this install. It would go a lot easier if you had jack stands or you propped the front of the vehicle up. A lift would be absolutely perfect. I highly recommend if you're going to do this by yourself in the driveway, you get a second pair of hands. It just makes it a lot easier if you're the hand that's supporting it from the back and somebody else is passing the zip tie through. Unfortunately, I had none of that, so I was able to do it myself, but I definitely recommend using a second pair of hands. Now, there are more expensive kits that offer protection for this kind of inner opening, but I didn't go with that for the reason that there isn't an actual radiator behind here. The radiator exists behind this section, and all this section, the inner portion is it's like a pass-through air duct that passes air to the radiator behind the larger opening. And so if a rock was to come through here, it's more than probably going to hit the plastic piece back here and lose its momentum and velocity before making its way over and then down out the other side. The probability of a rock flying in at that perfect angle to hit it that way is small, so I didn't feel like I wanted to go ahead and do this kind of portion. It basically would have doubled the cost of this entire install and this modification. Same thing, as you guys can see, applies to the other side over there. Additionally, if you want to do those inner sides, you really do have to take apart the Z51 spoiler, kind of drop the whole thing down to be able to do it. I can't do my little shortcut way of propping my hands up through this bottom portion. But all in all, guys, relatively easy install. It took me maybe about 25 minutes on the passenger side. Once I knew what I was doing, it took about maybe 10 minutes on the driver's side. And it retains this button functionality for the front. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of this install. If you did enjoy this video, give it a big old thumbs up. If you haven't already and you would like to subscribe, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Overall, I think this install came out really nice. It's not that difficult if you have the right setup for it. Obviously, I made it harder for myself by doing it on cold asphalt on a 38-degree day. But ultimately, guys, for $80, this is probably one of the best modifications that you can do to a C8 Corvette. And as always, guys, until the very next video, I will see you in the comment section below.